Good afternoon and welcome to the regular board meeting of the Sunshine Coast Regional District. Today is Thursday, July 14th. I'd like to acknowledge that we operate on the territory of the Shuswap and the Squamish Nations, and we thank them for sharing their lands with us. We have an amended agenda in front of us. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. First up is the regular board meeting minutes of June 23rd for adoption. Sorry, and I'm in the wrong agenda. That would help if I went into the right one. That one was really short. All right. Motion to receive and adopt the minutes. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Director McMahon?
I was just curious, page 8, if there's any update on the Junior B hockey. Has anyone heard anything?
I think we'd have to look to, there she is, GM Gagnon.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I do have a quick update on junior hockey. When I returned from vacation on Tuesday, I did have an email from the representative from the Junior B Hockey Society, the Sunshine Coast Junior Hockey Society, that their visit with the PGHL, the Pacific Junior Hockey League Board AGM, went quite well. It was well received. And subsequently, shortly thereafter, the PGHL did reach out to say that they were actually going to, for unrelated reasons, going to slow down the process somewhat. So it's looking like it won't be a September 2023 league expansion. It might be a little bit later, which is good news for everybody. I think it gives us a bit of time to move through the process in a reasonable fashion and make sure that we do a good job. So we're by no means losing momentum because we have a lot of work to do. But the timeline on the end has shifted somewhat. That does give us a bit of breathing room. So I am right now waiting for business plans to be submitted so that I can get a good indication of exactly what we're looking at. And then we'll be developing milestones and probably have an update, I would think, maybe by in Q3, end of Q3, beginning of Q4 for the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the minutes? Seeing none, let's move on to item number 3, Annex B, pages 12 through 18. This is Committee of the Whole recommendations numbers 1 through 6, 9, 10, and 12 through 14 of June 23rd. Recommendations 7, 8, and 11 were previously adopted. Of those before us today, are there any that you'd like pulled for separate consideration? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to receive and adopt. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item number 4. This is the West Can Marine Crossing Water Main Replacement Engineering Services, Manager of Capital Projects. And I guess it's going to be Mr. Rosenboom. Over to you.
I guess it's going to me. Thank you, Chair Seegers. Presented for the board consideration is a contract amendment for the construction engineering and construction oversight services for the West Can Crossing construction project. In 2021, Great Pacific has been retained to design, permit, and construct to the construction oversight for this project. Since project initiation, the project scope has been expanded and the complexity increased due to the realignment of the water main onto public right-of-way instead of the original location on a private right-of-way, private property. Consequently, additional project engineering and construction management costs are being required to associated with permits, archaeological monitoring, and construction oversight. Board approval of the amended contract is required as the value will now exceed over $100,000. Unfortunately, it was not possible to present this contract amended to the board prior to the construction phase of the start to commence last week, Monday. In terms of the construction progress itself, the contractor started floating and laying the replacement of the water line last week. and this portion of the work was completed earlier this week. The remaining water line will continue in upcoming weeks. Staff are here to provide answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Directors, any questions on this? Director Ties?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that on previous items related to this project, I have recused myself, but that was because I'm accommodating the contractor, and this is the engineering for it, so I don't see a conflict of interest on this one. So I think I'm in the clear on this one, so I'm happy to vote.
Thank you. One of the questions I had is, what initiated the change in where the pipe was going down, which then led to the cost overrun? Why was that change made?
I'll have Manager Mizrak, who is now with us, answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Chair Seegers. Good question. So yes, the main reasons for the change to the alignment had a couple of things. One is the existing right-of-way that it was within was tight. It was only like 2 meters wide. And the new alignment actually allows us an allowance of up to 10 meters, basically. And then, but the main reason was there was at least 1 or 2 properties in which the alignment, there was an encroachment over the existing pipeline alignment, such as a detached garage, for example. So between those were the main primary reasons. And as we got into the design, it was, we looked at the pros and cons of basically shifting the alignment. And because of those reasons, mainly, that's why we made the changes.
So in other words, somebody built a garage or something on top of the easement that they shouldn't have. We would have had to have them move the garage or whatever the building is?
That's correct, when we reinstalled it, yes, yes.
Okay then. Any other questions from directors? Director Hills?
Yes, so once the new pipe is in and commissioned, what happens with the old pipe underneath of the garage? Like, and is that right away still going to be an SCRD easement? So I guess, is this going to become a piece of orphan infrastructure, I guess is my short question. Thanks.
So I'd have to double check the actual location of where the tie-in is going to be, but the majority, such as the submerged portion of the water line, will remain in place. We're just going to cap each end and not remove it. And, we're trying to minimize the disruption to the tie-in points, which there is some field fit involved because we are having to dig through, solid rock out there. And, we're also trying to avoid having sand to blast through rock and stuff like that. If we can get basically through a digging bar type of thing is preferred. So to answer your question, the exact tie-in points will be field fit based on field conditions. Thank you for the question.
Any further questions? All right, so there are some recommendations on page 19. What would you like to? Director Hiltz?
I'll move the recommendations as presented on page 19.
Thank you, and it's seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Before we go further, I wanted to point out a couple things on this agenda. Number 4, 5, 6, and 7 were initially on the committee of the whole agenda. And when we did the agenda review, we looked at these as, maybe requiring a little bit of discussion, but not a lot. And they were all to do with contracts, and they were requested to come to the board today because they were time sensitive. So we thought rather than have staff have to do that during the break, we know they're coming to the board. We just brought them to the board. We figured that would save time. So that's why they're on here. It's not typically we've done. We've talked about it before, but we thought this was, for these particularly, it was time to implement it. All right. Next up, Item D, number 4. This is Strategic Priorities Fund Grant Application for SCRD Water Meter Installations Phase 3. And this is Mr. Doyle. I believe, maybe not. Let me see. No. I don't know who's speaking to this one. Manager Asset Management, it says. Who would like to speak to this? Mr. Rosenboom, over to you.
This will be a bit of a scramble, but I will give it a try. And
Okay.
is our CFO better? I think she's better equipped to take this one. I will jump in.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Our manager, Kyle Doyle, was supposed to join us here but he is on a day off today, but he may have gotten waylaid. So this particular report's in front of you as we saw an opportunity to apply for the Strategic Priorities Fund for the watering metering project. We have applied for water meters before in the past, and this particular grant, we saw there was a fit on the criteria. And so we also did a scan of various other projects that might be in a position to be what we sort of term shovel ready to apply for specific grants. And we didn't really see any others that really we could submit a grant that was within all the aspects of the grant conditions that would meet the criteria. So in front of you today is a application. We've actually submitted the grant application on June the 30th, so we wanted to meet the timeline. So one of the conditions is to get board approval for that. So that's in front of you today. If we were successful, the positive outcome would be that we would no longer have to issue as much debt as we have budgeted for this particular one, and which is up to $7.5 million. So that would be very beneficial to the service that has a lot of capital requirements in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I noticed 2 things in here. One, the maximum grant award is $6 million. So that's why we applied for 6, because we need more than that. But the other piece that I noticed is on page 24, right above where it says strategic plan, it says this grant allows the project to be initiated before the grant results are announced. That's rare. Most times you have to wait until the grant's announced before you can actually start spending the funds. So it's a project we're going to do anyway. If we're successful, it will just reimburse us for the money that we put out. So that's fabulous news. Directors, any questions? Director Lee.
Not a question, just a comment. I think this is an ideal one for a grant like this. It hits us all, so I'm sure all in favor of it. It was, congratulations for finding it.
Thank you. Director Ties?
Yeah, happy to move the recommendations as listed on page 23.
And it's been seconded. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Next up is number 6, Annex E, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund grant application for Extreme Heat Response Plan for the SCRD. And it says Manager Protective Services. And I don't see him with us either. Yeah, go ahead. Over to the CAO.
This is another instance where we didn't have a lot of time before the deadline, so the application's been submitted. We need to provide a formal resolution of support to back up that application, and if we're successful, we'll be working with Gibsons and Seashelt on this as well.
Thank you. I saw when this came out, I think they put it out and had 3 weeks or something to respond. It was one of those really quick turnarounds because they wanted it in place for this summer.
They like to do that, yes,
Yes.
from time to time.
Yeah. Director Pratt.
Just a quick comment. It's always nice to have shovel-ready projects, for one, and staff being able to be so nimble with submitting the application. So these are the kind of applications that you're more than happy to provide a resolution after the fact. But so I would happily move the staff recommendations on page 25.
Thank you, and that's been seconded. Any other questions or comments? Director McMahon.
Yes, and I did read this through, but what happens if and when we get the grant? Will there be follow-up coming to us? I'm really interested in this whole question of planning for extreme heat and how we're going to handle it. And it raises some questions to me, too, of things like how we utilize our facilities for emergency uses. We've had some challenges, for instance, trying to use the recreation center. And we had some challenges trying to use it as a heat shelter. So just curious where we see this going next if we get this nice little bucket of money.
That's a very good question. And I'm happy to say that we'd probably be happy to provide that information should we be successful. Could probably come back with a bit of a staff report if we're successful that sort of highlights how this program will unfold and how the other communities and other partners may be involved.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have a recommendation on the floor. It is on page 25. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7, Annex F. This is engine number 1 replacement. Sorry, Director Hilt.
Yeah, just a quick question on the list. 3 jurisdictions, 30,000 each. So did the other jurisdictions do letters of support, or just wondering how the other jurisdictions are brought into the application process?
My understanding, and I'll do my best to answer the question, not being directly involved in the application myself, but my understanding was we reached out to discuss the application. I certainly talked to it, briefly discussed it with my fellow CAOs, but I know that staff also reached out to discuss it. Recognizing there wasn't a lot of time to put the application together, there is a willingness amongst the groups to work together if we're successful.
And if letters of support are required, I think we can make those happen.
Yes, and I think, I don't think it's resolutions required from the other jurisdictions. I think it would probably likely just be letters.
Page 26 identifies that, just above the heading strategic plan.
Okay, so do we need to reach out as a board? All right, that's good catch there, Director Emish. It says resolutions of support will also be required from the District of Seashelt Nation and the town of Gibsons. So do we need a resolution from the board requesting those letters?
Possibly to be safe, because there's I hear you said resolution just now. I'm not positive if a resolution of support is required from Gibsons or Seashelt, or if simply a letter of support. So if the board would like to provide direction to staff to request either a resolution or letter of support from both Gibsons and Seashelts in support of the application, that would be considered welcome.
All right. Tina?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I believe we do need support from the other jurisdictions, and I think they have been queued up, but I think a resolution from us and forwarding that along, there is no harm in that.
Thank you. And would someone like to make a resolution? Director McMahon?
I'd like to make a resolution.
That, okay, and it's been seconded. So they'd like to make a resolution. No details, but the resolution basically, I think, is that either letters of support or resolutions in support of this grant application be requested from the District of Seashelt Nation, and the town of Gibsons. All right, and that's been
Exactly
seconded.
what I said.
Perfect. All right, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Now we can move on to engine number 1. Is this like the little engine that could? Engine number 1. Okay. This is number 7, Annex F, pages 28 through 29. And this is, yes, I can bring Mr. Higgins in. This is required for Roberts Creek Volunteer Fire Department, and we are having the Fire Chief, Pat Higgins, speaking to us on this one. Mr. Higgins, over to you. Welcome.
Well, welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Chair and Board. Shall I just wait for questions or give you the background?
I think you'd probably give us a little background on this, if you don't mind.
Well, I can assure you it's not the little engine that could. It does
Darn, you
quite a
weren't supposed
bit,
to hear that.
actually.
You were in the way being transport coming into the meeting.
Yeah, we have egos here, so we don't use words like little. In any case, our old engine one is essentially a 1-ton truck called a light attack vehicle. It reached its useful lifespan a bit over a year ago, and we've been working on this project for a while. Excuse me. The truck is nearing completion now. It needed a few changes because we increased the height of the truck, and it makes it a little difficult for some of us, including myself, to actually reach things on the top shelf. Now, Director Ties might, if he comes back and joins us, he might not have that problem, but I do. So for occupational health and safety requirements, we've had a few things like extra steps added here and there for safety's sake. We have changed the interior compartment paint color to a highly reflective product that will make it much easier to improve visibility within the cabinets, especially, believe it or not, during the day when you've got a lot of sunshine, lights up the inside of the cabinet. Other than that, some controls that are important to the operation of things like the pump and searchlights have been modified and fitted into a center console so that the operators can use. I can see Director Ty smiling. He wants to come back and join, I can tell. Yeah, this is basically for health and safety and ease of use for operators. So the change order amounted to, sorry, I don't have that right in front of me there. So it actually came up to about $6,000, and we added a contingency if anything else went on. Did I give enough information?
That's very good. I think we'll have
Pretty
a
much.
couple of questions. That's good. Director McMahon?
Yeah, this is just me nitpicking again, but I was fascinated at the top of page 29 to learn that the capital reserves has an uncommitted balance, however these funds are committed. And that left me wondering how they could be uncommitted and committed at the same time, but I'll just skate right over that. Of course, I'm fully supportive, of course, of adjustments to our fire trucks so that they're better used.
Thank you. Director Ties?
Yeah, just a question. Our previous engine one was a 1-ton, as you just mentioned. It sounds like this one's considerably larger because even our short firefighters, of which we have many in Roberts Creek, were able to reach the top shelf on our old truck. So just wondering why it got so big and how big is it now?
I can tell you it's several inches higher just to the floor of the truck. This truck, I actually asked that it be designed with some moderate off-road capability. We do have some issues with the developments on the slope of Elphinstone. There's some driveways that have been allowed to secondary dwellings, for instance, that we cannot get our full-size vehicles in, and our current small engine has had difficulty with those. So we've come up with a truck that looks a bit like an off-road truck with some aggressive tires that would get us into places that the other vehicles won't.
Thank you. Director McMahon, did you want that uncommitted and committed piece clarified?
I can speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there are uncommitted funds in capital reserves, but this is being taken from operating reserves that has an uncommitted balance in it. Is that what Director McMahon's referring to?
Well, I think what the way I read this, and Tina can correct me, is that we have $399,520 in there. We actually
In
haven't-
capital.
Yes, in capital. And we haven't actually, said we're going to buy this with it, we're going to buy that with it. We've identified items that we're looking to buy. So the funds aren't committed as such. So they're still technically uncommitted, but where they're supposed to go is identified, and that's put in as committed. Is that correct, Tina, or am I totally out to lunch?
No, well, so it's just to clarify that our capital plans for our protective services fire departments have been just newly approved. And so we do have capital reserves that we have, and out of the capital plan, it has identified projects. So yes, you're on the right track. However, they aren't in the 2022 financial plan, but they most certainly are targeted to be for specific type of purchases for equipment for the Roberts Creek Fire Department in subsequent years. And so if we did take funds from there, it would significantly alter the commitment that we have and the plan and the financial plan. So we have contributions to reserves to contribute to that particular pot of money, which is then for future planned expenditures. What we are looking at as well is including some of these plans into the financial plan, the 5-year financial plan. So at least putting them there in draft and actually changing the verbiage in the reserves table, because I would argue they are committed because the board has made a decision to that service level standard.
Right, and that is still something that has to be voted on each year when those items come forward. I mean, it could be, for example, you might say, we need another fire truck or a different fire truck in a certain year, and it may come up to that year, and you say, we don't really need it this year, it's next year. And those plans can be changed at that time, but at this time, we have the plan going forward.
Absolutely, yes, we review them annually.
Right, and then the next paragraph on this page 29, I was asking why this money was coming out of operating reserve rather than capital. And then this was put in here, this is why it's being funded out of operating reserve, because we deployed this fire equipment and it had wear and tear, but we got funding from that and that went into operating. So that totally makes sense. Director Ties, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendations as listed on page 28, please.
That's been seconded.
Seconded.
Thank you. And Director Hiltz, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just on the amendment to the financial plans, so I can't remember, the idea is you never have to do them, but we are going to be doing them. So they're going to be packaged up at once and we're going to amend them once or twice? I can't remember what the process was for kind of circling all these together and putting them into the package. Thanks.
I suspect that question's for me, Chair. Thank you. So in the financial planning policy that is actually going to be presented, it's not adopted yet. It's being presented again at the July 21st Finance Committee. And part of that discussion was talking about the policy for when financial plan amendments would be appropriate. And so the wording in the policy is very generic, but it's really just to highlight that multiple financial plans are really not best practice. And the reason being is because what's presented to the public and what we record in our financial statements, and this is per the Local Government Act and Public Sector Accounting Standards, is that you only report what was actually approved. You don't present your amended budget. So what we do now is we present and we actually formally amend our financial plan bylaw twice a year. We started this practice last year because of the magnitude of financial plan amendments that we're getting into here at the regional district. And so we also have planned to adopt and amend the bylaw at the end of the month. So we're going to probably do that again in December. But I think what also we need to look at is building more contingencies. And what we all know is that the commodities and just the market and supply chain markets right now are just very erratic. And so we are now facing a different sort of environment right now from the procurement side of the house. So I think we have to, that's why the language in the policy is not too restrictive, because we have to not also put ourselves in a corner and of course be able to continue to do business. But again, this is where we work to make sure we have appropriate scope, but these types of things do arise on occasion. So we have to be nimble. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, we have some recommendations on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Enjoy your new fire truck.
Thank you very much.
So next up is communications. I'd look for a motion to receive the communications. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And first up is a letter from me to the board from the District of Sechelt requesting a letter of support for the UBCM community-to-community funding. I understand Regional District is looking at doing some for the next intake.
The next intake might be fall. We're probably trending towards spring.
Right, I mean, this one is for the fall.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so it would be the one.
Most likely spring, yeah.
Okay. All right, board, what would you like to do? Director Beamish?
Move the recommendation
Thank you.
and letter of support.
Thank you, and that's seconded. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Yeah, I know. All right, there are no motions or bylaws, so we're into director's reports. So maybe we'll start with Director Beamish online, and then we'll start at our table here with Director Hiltz and move down. So Director Beamish? And you'll have to unmute. I think, okay, we'll have to have him come back.
Oh, you know, that's what happens when you don't unmute properly.
That was a short report.
All right, well, let's go to Director Hiltz, and hopefully we get Director Beamish back.
Sure. I'm substitute, kind of, sort of pinch hitting. Thanks. Just a couple items. Attendance at the area FAPC. This is back in end of June, and that was on the discussion of bylaw 722. And overall, I would say it was a good discussion, and the recommendations are forthcoming. Yesterday was attended the staff-hosted Church Road information site at Eric Cardinal, just to provide area residents about information about the Church Road. Is able to participate and listen in about what's going on, and I would say overall, you know, as much disruption as it is, it's going well, you know. And I did ride my bike down the packed pathway, and so I will verify that it's a very nice place to ride a bike. So I'm looking forward to the gravel coming there. And just something on the Gambier Island front. It was what day is it? It was last week, July the 9th. Part of the process for the fire smarting, they did a presentation at the Gambier Community Center that Bill Higgs was over there to meet with residents and talk about fire smarting, and I haven't got a report. I think that was, I haven't got a report back on that, but it was very beneficial for the people on Gambier to see people coming over and talking about fire smarting, to know that they're not left out by themselves and that there is support. So just thanks staff for that, and it was appreciated. So when I get more information about it, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pratt. We'll come back to you at the end now, Director Beamish.
Okay, so let's start off with June 28th. I had the honor of being a moderator for the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver's municipal update with Manager of Planning, Jonathan Jackson, giving an update on all of the details that are happening in the regional district to a group of realtors from Sunshine Coast, as well as there were a number from the Greater Vancouver area. So lots of really great questions and discussions. And I'm waiting to get the link for that I know the directors have seen the slides from the presentation. Jonathan did an amazing job, so thank you so much for doing that. It was very informative for the realtors that were involved, and it was a lot of fun to do that with him. And thank you to Cheryl Funston from the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. It's a really great way to let the professional community know what's actually going on the ground with our zoning bylaws and everything that's happening on the Sunshine Coast. June 28th, Area B APC had our information session with Planner Uliseo regarding bylaw 722 and the updates there. So it was a lot of good conversation that way. Upcoming this Sunday, July 17th, the Half Moon Bay Community Fair will be happening from 12 to 8 o'clock at Connor Park. It is going to be a fantastic event. They've got live music. There's all kinds of events planned and everything. So really looking forward to that. Hoping the weather will be good for that as well. But it looks like from the extended forecast it should be. Is it at Cooper's Green Park, Linda, not Connor? Linda McMahon, who is the, yes, oh, sorry, I thought it was at Connor. No, it's at Cooper's Green Park. Sorry, Linda. Linda McMahon just sent us a chat through there, and my apologies. I would have been at the wrong place. And then if the board may just indulge me just for a moment for just a little bit of a personal message, because I know there's been a lot of questions and everything based on some of the information I've shared about my personal situation. So I've got a little bit of a statement here. So September 9th, 1994 was my first time off the ferry at Langdale. This was the beginning of a new adventure for me. I was 19 years old and ready to start my coastal adventure. Originally, it was to be a short-lived break between high school and university as I found my path. 28 years later, I've raised 3 beautiful children here, become a Rotarian, walked the path for the Relay of Life several times, volunteered, been in many parent advisory council positions, so many that one was actually created for me, and I was on a first-name basis with the superintendent. Served 10 years as a school board trustee, been through 2 marriages and divorces, and am now finishing a 4-year term as an electoral area director with the Sunshine Coast Regional District, not to mention several other experiences in the great world of adulting. It is with great sadness and regret that I announce that I have made the decision to move off the Sunshine Coast and will not be submitting my name as a candidate in this autumn's local government elections. I can't tell you how many wonderful people have voiced their support, reached out, and offered homes and solutions for me. I'm incredibly grateful to you all and am humbled by your generosity. I've been truly blessed in my life to be part of the Sunshine Coast. Well, I've certainly had trials and tribulations. My experiences here have been incredible, very educational and rewarding. I have met and worked with many wonderful people, and I will miss you all. It has been a great privilege to represent my community as an elected official and to work with dedicated representatives and talented staff at SD 46 and the Sunshine Coast Regional District. I can never express my eternal gratitude to you all. I will continue to represent my community to the best of my ability for the remainder of the term and would happily speak to anyone interested in putting their name forward for local government elections this fall. And just my hands up to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm crying too. It's okay. You've been an inspiration. Thank you. Director Ties.
Yes, thank you, Lori, for everything that you've done for your community, as well as for women that were looking to get elected, and bringing more diversity to the local elected officials and the board. And yeah, it's been an honor. So Thank you. And much respect. Yes. Well, work's been very busy for me, and the creek's been fairly quiet apart from the rising number of complaints about speeding on Lower Road because of Joe Road construction. But I've let both the RCMP and MOTI know about that, so I think I'll move on from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
Hard acts to follow. Yeah, Lori, we're gonna miss you. Anyway, we're getting a head start on missing you already, just, yeah. Let's see, what have I been doing? I have been taking the bus quite a lot on the Sunshine Coast, so with a little coaching from staff, I managed to get the app working on my phone so that I now know when the bus is coming, which is helpful. I took the bus on June the 27th to the Housing Action Table meeting in Sechelt that was held in person. Very strange being back in person. June the 29th also came up here for the Long Service Awards and took that bus that actually comes up here like 3 times a day at weird times. And on July the 1st, unrelated to the SCRD, but it was a heck of a lot of fun, I was at the night market at the Gibson's Public Market. That was one rockin' good party with tons of people out and interacting with all the various volunteer tables and booths and stuff that were there. And I had heard reports from other people. I was there for the car co-op, but there were a lot of people there, like the Affordable Housing Society was there, and lots of good interactions, people volunteering. I think people are really raring to get back into it. July the 2nd, I dropped by Steve Sleep's retirement party. July the 6th, I did an interview with Keith Van Brabant, who we all know from Coast Cable's Talk to Your Local Government show. He's working for CKAY, and he's doing video interviews, which you can find on the 91.7 Coast FM Facebook page. So if you scroll through there, you will not only see an interview with me, but also Mayors Beamish and Mayor Seegers, and more coming, so it's worth a look. On July the 8th, I happened to be in North Vancouver and missed a bus and decided to walk to my destination and found myself on their Spirit Trail, which is a multi-user path going right from, through Park Royal all the way across Lower North Van there. I loved it. My heavens, it's wonderful.
Oops.
All right, we are back. Sorry for that. It looked like we had some technical issues. We're all back, face to face and on Zoom. So we were with, who was speaking?
I was.
You were, yes. Director McMahon, back
It's
to you.
okay, it wasn't that exciting and it crashed the internet, so I think I'll pass and go to Director Lee.
Director Lee.
Director McMahon don't want to take any more chances, eh? So Lori, thanks for being a supporter of mine and our Area A community. You've become a great friend, and we're going to miss our easy access to your advice and support. So thank you for all you've done. And so I get by that part, I hope, and get into my report here. On June 28th, I attended the quarterly police update. And what I discovered is that they've created a great report broken down to community, and it's very interesting and informative, and I did mention it to various groups. I really did like it. Got down to like even what's happening in Irvin's Landing. I didn't even know they knew there was an Irvin's Landing. So that's cool. July 4th, I had a meeting with a member of the public, and they talked about bylaws on blasting for driveways and foundations. We did reach agreement that the member himself would go do some more investigation to see if other districts have such regulations. He was talking about a pre-survey before you start blasting and breaking, and a post-survey once you're finished to make sure your neighbors' houses haven't been damaged. And whether we need a bylaw like that or whether there's one already at the province, I don't know, but we'll find out. July 7th, we had a really great site tour of McNeil Lake Dam, and I know I sent an email to everybody, but I wanted to mention it in public, just how much I appreciated the efforts of GM Rosenboom and his team. They did a really great job. And if you guys ever get a chance to go visit the McNeil Lake Dam and South Pender Water Treatment Plant, you should take it, because it's a mini Chapman plant with multiple different water treatments and a skimmer to take off the organics and a big sand filter. Real cool. And it's all just there in the tanks, and you can look over the edge and see it all working. Really nice. And like usual, the most striking was the removal of organics and how that stuff ends out into a settling pond where it really isn't doing any damage, but it sure looks ugly when you look at it floating on the top. But It makes you realize how much water treatment you need to get pure water. And where you look at it, where it comes in, you'd say there was nothing in it just looking. But once it's been bubbled out and separated, there's quite a lot of stuff in there. And my takeaway from it is that we're going to have a little bit more work on North Pender, because when you think about it, that's where most water treatment needs to be, is at that level, if you're doing surface water. So, and lastly, on July 13th, I attended a Board of Variance hearing here in person, and I really realized how nice it was to attend in person and just sit there and listen. And I was so impressed how professional it was held, the great job the chair did, but also just how easy it was for staff to effectively answer random questions from the public or the board. And it was great, and they did a great job. And I got to admit, my take on Board of Variance has changed. I think they're very valuable when there's a good reason for having them. Anyways, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Beamish.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the last meeting of council earlier this week on Tuesday, we gave direction to staff to investigate the opportunity to protect Sharman Creek and the Sharman Creek watershed area, including the English lands and the trail that runs up from Stewart Road to Upper Gibsons. It's kind of set in motion the process for a number of things. One is to eventually connect that whole area with the protected lands we now have on Gospel Rock, and then to have a belt around the town, that part of the town there, a protected conservation area. Sharman Creek is a salmon and trout bearing creek with great potential. We're looking at how to improve that and how to make that work. There also is a natural asset area for us that manages stormwater coming from Upper Gibsons. And but we're looking at a number of opportunities there, including habitat trails and things of that nature, and then trails for people as well. So that will be done over time. These things don't happen right away. It took 30 years to get the protection into Gospel Rock. We don't believe it's going to take another 30 years, but it might take 3 years to get that fully protected and put the right mechanisms in place for that purpose. So that will be good. Our short-term rental, or I think it's called now residential tourist accommodation bylaw, was given third reading. Interestingly enough, as much as we had a number of people speak to it at the public hearing, nobody showed up for third reading, and nobody spoke to it for third reading. So that was interesting. The annual report was adopted on Tuesday night, and that's now available on the website to take a look at. These reports contain a lot of information about the community, and they're really valuable for both people living in the community and also people who are considering relocating. What services are available and how business is conducted in town. The music of the landing, just a reminder to everybody, it's summertime now, so Friday nights at the gazebo, and Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday afternoon and Sunday evening in the park. This Saturday, it's going to be the Squamish Canoe family coming over, and they always come over as a fundraiser. It's always a lot of fun. They get people dancing and singing, and it's really a good turnout. Night market was mentioned. It was great. 2,500 people was reported, the turnout for that. And the next one is July 29th, and that'll be followed by September 2nd. So come out. They're a lot of fun, a lot of people, and just a good way to celebrate. On Tuesday night, Colton, one of our students on council, brought up the issue of transit and the bus schedule and the challenge it is for students and young people, both getting to work and just getting around, trying to leave their cars behind. And he said, just the schedule just doesn't work for them. It's not frequent enough. And when it is, it's often late, the buses. So I said that I'd mention it here, but I'm also aware that Transit's aware of that, and the 5-year plan, the strategic plan for transit is to improve that. But it's never a fast solution, and they are concerned about it. And Lori as well, I wish you all the best. You know, I know what it's like to move. I'm doing it myself, but we're doing the cleaning up, the emptying out, and the garage sailing and getting rid of stuff. But all the best to you. It's been great working with you and to get to know you for the past 4 years, amazingly enough. So thank you for everything you've done for the community. Thank you.
All right. Director Toth isn't here, so I have to pull up a few things for the District of Sechelt as well. I want to mention a few things. I attend the ICE-T board meeting, so Island Coastal Economic Trust board meeting. One of the items that has been under discussion over there with ICE-T is the fact that if there is no recapitalization of the funds that they have to give out, they're going to have to start to wind down, and they would have to wind down within the next 2 years. So their conversations have been had with the province to see if there's any appetite to recapitalize. And it seems like there may be, because they're starting to recognize the impact and the benefit that ICE-T has to the communities that are at the grassroots and the work that they do. So there will be a push to meet with ministers, talk with ministers, to get something put forward in the next budget. They're asking for enough money. The minimal ask right now is $150 million, and they're looking to have it be set up the same way that the other trusts are in the province. So the other trusts in the province currently have funds where they only have to spend the interest, and then they keep the funds intact. ICE-T was never funded that way. They were funded on a different model from the other trusts in the province. We were the only ones that were given a small amount of money, so we didn't have sufficient funds to be able to put it aside and do that. So that's the conversation that'll be happening over the next little while, with an aim to having something come forward in the budget for next year, for 2023. I attended the Drag Queen Story Time on Saturday last week before. I want to say thank you to the community. When there were derogatory remarks put up, the community responded and came out in force. On Thursday afternoon, there were about 70 people there with colorful umbrellas, and just there they wanted to have a bit of a bridge for those who were entering the facility to say, look, we support what's happening here. So I just want to say thank you to the community. Same thing happened on Saturday. So that just speaks very highly of our community. The Housing Action Table meeting, Director McMahon was there. One of the things that was presented was the draft strategic plan. So we as a regional board have funded through the MRDT, which I don't know what it stands for, municipal something tax. It comes from Sunshine Coast Tourism. And the other accommodation provider tax that we get, we are funding the program manager for that, for the Housing Action Table. And so the Housing Action Table program manager, funded by the SCRD, provided the the draft strategic plan. So there was some feedback given, very good feedback. They're going to go away and that'll be coming forward. So watch for that to come out. Some of you have mentioned the quarterly policing update. I had 3 different meetings that week on RCMP funding. It was the quarterly policing update, gave us information there. And then I had a session with Fort St. John with regards to RCMP funding. Their CAO was with the RCMP for something like 20 years, and so was giving us some more information, background information on how those are funded. And then I attended the Mayor's Forum for Division E, which is what we are, in the Lower Mainland. Director Beamish was on via phone and or Zoom, and I think Director McMahon was there as well. One of the things that's coming out there is there will be some financial pressures on municipalities who contribute, but also on residents in rural areas who pay into RCMP. And there are 3 big items, big ticket items that are coming down. One is e-com, which we've had the presentation here. There's going to be expenses for that. Another one is the body-worn cameras. So it's been mandated that body-worn cameras are put in place. Now, there's not only the capital expenditure, but then there has to be staff probably municipal staff or provincial staff internally to be able to blur people's features, for example, on these videos that they use because they may not have permission, right, because of privacy. So there's all kinds of bits and pieces around that. So it's not just the cameras, which they say is about $3,000 per member per year, but it's all the other stuff in behind the scenes that is still being laid out. So that's another expense. And the final one is the contract negotiations that have been settled. And I think I've mentioned this before. When in 2016 was the last time the RCMP signed a contract, and since then, municipalities have been requested to put away 2.5% each year for contract, whatever, the next level of the contract, right? The next year, the upgrades, et cetera. In the end, now it's 3.5% per year. And so there are municipalities through the province who don't have the funds. They do not have the funds to pay this. So it was to be billed a few months ago for inclusion in budgets. They've actually put that on hold now. UBCM has gotten involved in it as well and are requesting that the federal government pay the back pay because of the hardship it will create for municipalities. So all of those are sitting out there. Just want to give you a heads up on that, and there's still more work to happen. I attended the Gibson's RGA public hearing. I don't know who else was there. I couldn't see who else was there. It actually was fairly low key in my world. I think there weren't a lot of people who there were more that attended, but not many spoke to it. So it looks like most are in favor of where Gibson's is going. So congratulations on that. I know it's been a long time to get there, but looks like you're moving that forward. I attended the SCRD Long Service Awards as well as Director McMahon, and it's really cool. I mean, one of the things I said there was, people don't grow up and think, oh, I want to work for local government, right? It's like, I want to be a pilot, or I want to be an astronaut or a doctor or something, and yet what staff working for local government do is critical to people's lives, and they don't get a lot of thanks, but if they don't do their job, people sure notice, right? Because it's critical to what they do in a day-to-day. So on behalf of the board, I just said thank you for what you do, and thank you for your many years at the regional district. So it was really cool. I attended the Sechelt Nation grade 12 and post-secondary graduation dinner. So they acknowledged the students who graduated from grade 12 and those who graduated with bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. So they're starting to acknowledge their students and what they bring to the community. Not all the students were there. Some of them, for example, one of the fellows, I think he was in the paper actually, is off. He was trying out for some hockey team. And others are off doing other kinds of things. But it was the community coming out and supporting education in their community. Steve Sleep's retirement party, he did a great little talk. He talked about, and he showed some pictures of the years he's been, through the TV industry and with Eastlink and Coast Cable. In the room, they had pictures all around, little like picture board, poster board, but with little pictures, students over the years. And they said, it's interesting how many have gone on from that journalism course in Elphinstone to actually be involved in movie, in journalism in somewhere, radio. So he's left a legacy. So it's really kind of cool. Sunshine Coast Community Forest donated some of the remaining funds to the Sechelt Nation and the Siaya Reconciliation Movement to finish off the totem pole. I don't remember the fellow's name. I'd have to look it up. But he came over from Squamish, and he's the one who led finishing off the pole. He had some of the Sechelt Nation members working under him as well, doing some of the work. But he's very well recognized. Got his PhD from Emily Carr and teaches this stuff. So it was a great experience. I attended the funeral for Annie Akuliak and Clarence Lee, a former minister at the church, he did the homily on it, and he talked about how the RCMP came and shot her dad's dogs up in the Arctic so that they would leave because they didn't have a way to get around. And then she said how through Annie's work, she donated one of her pieces to the RCMP, and it's actually hanging in their headquarters in Ottawa. And she invited the RCMP to come, and they were the honor guard. They were the pallbearers for her at the funeral. So how reconciliation showed up inside of that, given her background. And then I want to talk about July 1st. It was amazing. There were about 400 people who came in their orange shirts and walked in the parade. And the nation themselves said, yes, there were some red shirts around, that's cool, but there were lots of orange shirts all on the parade route as well. So it was a great event that day, and I think one of the cultural ambassadors for the nation said this is the first time they'd actually been thanked in public for the work that they do. So I want to thank everybody who was involved in that. It was a great group effort to put that all together, and I think they pulled it off really well. So, the District of Sechelt. What happened to the District of Sechelt? We gave 3 readings to the housing agreement for community services, and that's one of the steps that's required in order to get them to building permit. And we adopted the housing agreement for Ebbtide. That's the property on, it's 28 apartment units on Ebbtide. So that piece is moving forward. We had a presentation by staff on our new zoning bylaw, 580, and this was just a summary of the changes with regards to the feedback that we've gotten. We didn't have all of the feedback in at that point yet, but anticipate that it's coming back for second reading in the next 2 weeks, and then a public hearing probably beginning of September. Development permit for Sunshine Coast Community Services Society approved. And our Wharf Avenue project is complete. There'll be trees and things going in that, but that has to wait until the fall, just in case we don't have water in the summer here to water them. So we want to make sure that they take in that. So I think that'll look really well once that's done. What else have I got in here? Operations Center, construction's moving forward. Active transportation network improvements. We've received the 75% design for the big project that will go from Mason up by Sechelt Elementary School and over to Kinnickinnick Park. The Snicket Park washroom should be going in fairly shortly. The RV sanding station is being built along with the operations building on, so you can let your, people know it'll be on Dusty Road. Hackett Park Stage, I talked about the official opening of that. Jane Bowers Dog Park, grand opening was June 19th, was great. Lots of people showed up, and there's lots of people using it throughout the community. What else have I got? I think that's it. There will be a grant announcement next week, Thursday or Friday. Watch for information on that. That's all I got. Anybody miss anything? Director Mann.
Yes, I did miss one thing. I went to a presentation on rain gardens put on by the Streamkeepers. Really interesting. We need to be building rain gardens. They're beautiful. They're environmentally brilliant. Yeah, it's a win-win. And I just wanted to say in regards to that policing meeting, I was absolutely daunted by the implications of those two things. Our 911 service going to an internet platform. It's just imagine how much data is going to be collected, and it's all got to be managed. And the privacy implications and everything else associated with that are alarming. And the body cameras also because they're collecting all this video data and something has to be done with it. And it looks like a lot of the responsibility for all this is going to be downloaded on local governments. And that's, I mean, that's huge amounts of money. It's huge amounts of expertise required to manage this. Don't tell our IT department, they'll have hysterics. But it's, yeah, we are looking at the future, and it is worrisome.
Director Pratt?
Thanks. I wanted to comment on the drag queen story time because forgotten that was in that last 3 weeks, and I attended on the Saturday outside, and it was incredible to see all of the support and from everyone, and just know that how inclusive our community is, and how supportive our community is, and it's not a little thing. It's a big thing, and there's no place for hate. There is, we need to accept, and seeing that show of support was very moving. So.
All right. Next up, we have an in-camera session. So we would like to pass a recommendation that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91A, E, I, K, and 2B of the Community Charter. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And then, yes, could we have the alternate director for Area A be included in the meeting? Moved, seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And then we will have our meeting locked. welcome back to the open board meeting of the Sunshine Coast Regional District. I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you.